Oh, hi there. You're probably wondering how I have this whole thing set up for my character. I've been streaming on Twitch for about a year or so now, and I've had some people actually ask me, how did you import your Koikatsu character into a VTuber studio thing? Truth is, I don't know how to do that. In fact, I've been trying to find somebody who can do that. So if you know anybody, let me know. But for now, I'm broke, I have no ability to do that, and most importantly, I like to use my limitations to their maximum extent. So I've decided to make a PNGtuber Plus video. This guide is going to be pretty much a very quick way to showcase how you can make your Koikatsu characters into PNGtubers. Note that this isn't going to go too in depth, but it will give you an idea of what you can do. First of all, here's the character that I'm using. Let's load up the character studio and load up the character. I usually use the male idle stance, and whenever I go to scene effects, I turn off ambient occlusion, bloom, and self-shadowing, as well as the vignette, because they tend to get in the way of trying to make these things perfect. I use a custom studio material shader called Cook. This is a bit of a blend of both the smooth shading, but also the minimalist shading. I don't know if I can provide a link to the download because I think it's a paid-for mod. Anyways, let's first go into the biggest part that I want to point out. There's a great thing about the PNGtuber Plus program, and that's the ability to add buoyancy to items. And I think the best asset is Bridget's Ahoge. Because of that, I'm going to remove the Ahoge and use it for later. I set up a camera and set it to 90 degrees. I want to have longer vertical sprites. You'll see in a minute. Make sure that the character is all in frame. If they have a lot of hair or huge accessories, you're gonna have to make sure that they're in the frame. I take renders with the F11 key. I do all my renders in 4K, including the PNGtuber stuff. In order to change resolution, press Shift and F11 and you can change it to a 4K resolution yourself. The renders I take will be 8 images total for just the body. 4 for blinking, and then 4 for speaking. But before I do anything about the speaking, I want to try and do something different when it comes to speaking. So I give her a different pose that will feel more alive. I don't want to have a same static pose all the time. Once again, make sure that she's in the frame. I also have it set to where that her eyes will follow the viewer. That way it feels more like she's actually speaking to the viewer. Alright, now we're going to go to the character. Make the body invisible, get rid of all the accessories, get rid of the clothing. Then I'm going to go back to the fluffy hair that she has to re-enable the Ahoge, and then completely get rid of the entire hair except for the Ahoge. I'll take a render of the Ahoge in the speaking form and the standing form. Let's go to this website, Free Sprite Sheet Packer. Go to where you can find your renders, and because of the way I render them, I have to manually flip them in Windows Explorer. Don't worry, these don't kill the quality, thank God. Drag them over, download as a PNG. Do this with the blinking and speaking sprites separately. In PNGtuber Plus's studio mode, you can only import items that are in the directory for PNGtuber Plus. Just press escape, and you should be able to get there. Here's the blinking image. I set it to a higher animation speed because having it slower doesn't make it feel too alive. Set the sprite frames to 4 because that's how many sprites there are. Also, make sure you hit that this is a blinking sprite. I didn't do that in this part of the tutorial. You're gonna want to do the same thing with the speaking sprite, but instead of hitting where the eye is, you want to hit this left one that has the mouth. Make sure it's open, and that way, this sprite will be the only one that's visible while you're speaking. Make a copy of the blinking sprite by simply importing it, and make it to where it says sprite frames are 4. That way, it stays static. Use this little chain to link everything together. That way, one of the next parts can be done easier. We're going to take the renders of the Ahoge that I made and apply it to a character through a chain again. However, we're also going to do something different. We're going to lower the layer positioning. That way, it's completely behind the character. You can do this by pressing the Q and E keys. I genuinely forget which key actually makes it to where it lowers, so sorry. I guess I'll put it in post. Once again, we link it, and we do the same thing with the other Ahoge. but we want to make sure that we're linking the right one to the right sprite, next to the top sprite that's apparent, and make it to where the y-axis amplitude and frequency is more than 0. That way, the character is moving. This, again, makes it feel more alive. But do the same with the Hoges, except make them bounce more. I would also recommend putting the squash to 0.25. That way, they bounce a lot more. When you're making sure that everything is fine, I'd highly recommend reviewing each and every single one of your sprites. For starters, the idle sprite should have its eyes open and its mouth closed. That way it's only visible whenever you're not speaking and when the model isn't blinking. And make double sure that the animation speed for everything is much faster. Change your blink chance to pretty much anything higher than 1 in 5. And this blink speed, I don't understand why it's here, but I guess it's how fast it will blink in a second. I don't really know. Bounce force and gravity can be done in any way you want, but most importantly is this part right here, where it has the microphone settings. The blue bar represents the threshold of how loud you speak so that the PNGtuber talks. The green one is for any kind of noise cancellation. If it detects any noise like a fan or an air conditioner, something along those lines, it will be able to try and suppress that and not trigger the PNGtuber to talk. Now, let's go into OBS. This is my streaming software of choice, but this is the most important thing that you need to do when it comes to using PNGtuber Plus. As you can see, it's not transparent. You have to go into the properties and allow transparency. Make sure that when you do use PNGtuber Plus, you don't minimize the program. It has to be in the background. It has to be an inactive window for it to be active, which is kind of an ironic statement, I know. If the PNGtuber is way too tall or way too big, use the W, A, S, and D keys on the parent sprite and move it down, left, right, etc. Or if you take the window for PNGtuber Plus, you can scale it past the usual boundaries and it'll be able to fit just fine by manually moving it in OBS. And that should do it. There's a few other things I didn't go over, like costumes. In my Ocarina of Time streams, I actually had it set to where I had a younger version of the character and other different tunics, and I was able to cycle through them very quickly. However, that one is a bit finicky because PNGtuber Plus has an issue when it comes to changing costumes. You can't rebind the actual key combinations to change any of the costumes, which leads to a lot of issues if you're playing FPS games and you use the number keys to change your weapons. But this is just the basic course for anyone who wants to make their Koikatsu characters into a PNGtuber because you're broke like me and can't afford a VTuber. Also, I stream on Twitch at Hydra Bravo Twitch. If you want to watch me, I'm going to be marathoning Mario Kart 8 Deluxe up until the month of June in an attempt to get 10,000 VR before the release of Mario Kart World and the Nintendo Switch 2. And I guess this could be me plugging the fact that I am trying to get the Nintendo Switch 2, and if you want to donate, I am throwing incentives for you to completely ruin my career, so that way you can have me work with the worst kart combinations ever. Anyways, see ya!